Audio 6.1. 1.
Would you be interested in playing games like this?
Well, I'm not so sure. I'd have thought that the games would turn out to be pretty dull. When I was at school, the teachers would make us do these educational games, and I ended up having a deep hatred of them. I think most gamers would say that they play games because they enjoy them and get a buzz out of them, so the games would have to be much better than the ones they play already.
2.
I would have loved to know about these sites before. You know, so much money and resources and creativity go into these games. And I've often asked myself, wouldn't it be good to use those resources in a constructive way? I've always felt rather guilty about playing games, especially when it's 2 a.m. and I'm still online and I have to get up for work the next day. So to be able to feel that I was helping out in some way would be great. Maybe knowing these games are helping the world in some way would make me feel less guilty.
3.
I think you've actually played one of these games.
That's right.
That's interesting. Would you tell us what happened?
The thing is, when I started playing, I didn't realise it would get so addictive. And that's important because, let's face it, most people would sooner spend their time gaining points than saving the planet. I don't think anyone would play these games if they weren't high quality in themselves.
4.
Funnily enough, my all-time favorite game is Tetris, which is the simplest, silliest game anybody has ever invented, and these games sound a bit similar. So I wouldn't mind having a go. Mind you, I'm not completely convinced by it. I asked some friends to try them out, but they wouldn't. They'd sooner play shooting games, and I think that would be true of lots of gamers. I don't think they'd be interested in saving a tree.
Audio 6.2. 1.
I'd rather not.
2.
Would you give me a hand?
3.
She wouldn't say.
4.
I always knew I'd be a star.
5.
Where would you live if money was no object?
6.
I wouldn't have thought so.
Audio 6.3.
Mike, the whole idea of having a holiday is quite a modern one, isn't it?
That's right. Until quite recently, people only took one holiday in their lives, their honeymoon. The idea of leisure is a modern one. In fact, most of the words we use for free time activities are quite new. Even the word weekend is said to have been used in its modern sense for the first time as late as the 1930s. Most people then worked 60 hours a week over 6 days.
It's strange, isn't it, when holidays and leisure are so important to us now. The idea of lying on a beach, unwinding, and feeling relieved about having got away from it all. But in fact, it seems as though the old bad days of not much free time might be coming back.
That's right. The amount of time devoted to leisure is dropping, not increasing. In the Netherlands, for example, it is reported to have gone down from 48 to 44 hours per week in just 25 years. People are tending to work longer and longer hours.
Yeah, I've noticed here at work the number of colleagues who get to December and then complain about not having taken all their holidays for the year.
Yes, apparently British workers only take 77% of the annual holiday to which they are entitled. That means they work 6 days a year for free. At the end of the year, people always say they would like to have taken all their holiday but just couldn't get away from their desks. It does seem rather strange.
Audio 6.4. 1.
I work in a large school in Perth, Australia. My students are aged between 15 and 18, and most of the time they're really lovely. But you know, they sometimes just get on my nerves. So I guess my job is quite stressful, and it's really essential for me to get away from it all occasionally. And the way I do that is jet skiing.
2,
I reckon most people wouldn't think plumbing is a very demanding job, and I'm a pretty laid-back kind of guy. There are a few things that drive me up the wall, mainly customers who keep changing their minds. The job's fairly repetitive. 90% of my work is changing taps that have started leaking, so I need to do something that's completely different. My hobby is to go on trips to art galleries. They're very tranquil places, and that's what I need.
3,
I get pretty stressed out in my job. I work most evenings and quite a lot of weekends. I get back from the office at 8 p.m. at the earliest. If I've got a big presentation to make, I'm a bundle of nerves the night before. My girlfriend's always telling me to reduce my workload. She says I'm always on edge, but I just want to slump in front of the TV and watch the latest detective series.
4,
Of course, different people have different ways of chilling out. I think it's important to strike a balance between work and downtime. Being a street cleaner involves a lot of dirt, so I try to get right away from that. My hobby is to find the best or the most interesting restaurants around. And every 2 weeks or so, I eat out with a group of friends.
5,
I really can't bear just lazing around. I have to be on the go all the time. Studies have shown that a change of activity is more important than just doing nothing. For example, if you work in an office, like I do, you want to get outside and do something active. But for me, the best way to unwind is karaoke.
Audio 6.5. 1,
A small boy swallowed some coins and was taken to hospital. The next day, his grandmother phoned the hospital to see how he was getting on. "No change yet," said the nurse.
2,
Why did the teacher wear sunglasses? Because her students were so bright.
Audio 6.6.
Good morning, everybody. Today's talk continues our series of talks about different aspects of language. I'd like to start with a joke. It's very short. A small boy swallowed some coins and was taken to hospital. The next day, his grandmother phoned the hospital to see how he was getting on. "No change yet," said the nurse. Now, as you will have realised, the joke depends on the fact that the word change has two meanings. Such words are called homonyms, and they're very common in English. This kind of wordplay is widespread in English and in many other languages too. It seems to cut across national and cultural boundaries. I'm sure there are similar jokes in most languages. But despite this, wordplay, as in this joke, is often regarded as trivial and childish. But if you enjoy this kind of wordplay, and many people certainly do, including me, then you start to think that it must be an important use of language, and certainly one that's worth studying. Indeed, one of the joys of languages like English, which contain lots of homonyms, is that they allow for this kind of joke.
Audio 6.7.
Of course, plenty of people hate the use of these double meanings. The famous writer and scholar Samuel Johnson called it the lowest form of humour. However, they're frequent in the works of many great authors, including Shakespeare, Lewis Carroll, and Vladimir Nabokov, and also in the Greek tragedies. Double meanings are found in the literature of ancient Egypt, China, and Iraq, and many other places. Language has often been described as fulfilling two functions. The first is called T communication, with T standing for transactional. This means it helps us to get things done, like ordering a meal in a restaurant. Though if you do not know the local language, it's enough to do this by simply pointing at the menu. The second type is called I communication, which means interactional. That is to say, language is an aid to building and maintaining relationships. But I think there's a third function, one that we might call P communication, with P standing for play. Just think how much we play with language, have fun with words, inventing new ones or using old ones in new ways. Unlike other aspects of play, until recently, this fun aspect of language was rarely studied seriously. Why should this be so? Children are happy to sing meaningless rhymes in the playground, and so are adults at football matches. Many millions do crosswords and other word puzzles that depend on wordplay. Italians have rebuses, the Argentinians have jeringoso, and the Japanese have shiritori. So we can't conclude that it's a feature of one particular language. Maybe we have simply taken wordplay for granted. Of course, plenty of people...
Audio 6.8.
What did you think of the film, Marco?
Well, I thought it was a bit of a mess. I liked the basic idea, but there were quite a few bits that I just couldn't get my head round.
Like what?
For a start, when was it supposed to be set?
I guess it was the 1800s or something like that.
And the plot was kind of strange. At the start, the main female character seems to be a normal woman. Then you realise she's actually some sort of alien. Come on, Amy, that's just daft.
Oh, I thought the bit when we found that out was great. You can't expect a story like that to be realistic. It's called Cowboys and Aliens, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. But something else I didn't get. How did the hero know about the alien ship? I found it a bit confusing. And pretty silly. There were loads of times when I thought, this is for teenagers.
Well, that's the whole point. It is for teenagers. How about you, Ross?
No, I wasn't confused. I was just bored. I thought it was pretty awful. There was something about the story that was really mechanical, formulaic. I felt the characters were all, just like robots. There was nothing new or original about anything they did. What a waste of time.
Isn't that funny? It's as if we've seen two completely different films. I thought it was great. I agree there were one or two twists in the plot, but I liked the characters. And what about the stuff at the end where the heroine sacrifices herself? Wasn't that really heart-wrenching?
That just made me laugh. I finally realised it was a comedy. It was a comedy, right?
Audio 6.9. 1,
I didn't enjoy it. The food ran out, so it was a bit of a disaster, really.
2,
The palace belonged to a duke or a lord or someone like that.
3,
There's extra stuff on the DVD, like interviews with the actors, some scenes they didn't use and that sort of thing.
4,
The shareholders' meeting was actually quite exciting. One or two people got up and started shouting while the CEO was speaking.
5,
She played in a couple of matches and then had to retire because she had something wrong with her leg. It was rather sad, really.
Audio 6.10. 1,
It was a bit of a disaster, really.
2,
A duke or a lord or someone like that.
3,
Interviews with the actors, some scenes they didn't use and that sort of thing.
4.
1 or 2 people got up.
5.
Something wrong with her leg.
Audio 6.11.
Why's the flight so delayed? It's difficult to understand.
It looks like there's a problem with the plane. I heard an announcement saying there was a technical fault.
You always get announcements when something goes wrong, but they never give you useful information. It's frustrating.
There was some information on the screens a few minutes ago, but it's gone now.